Have you ever felt that strange, almost magnetic presence some people carry? The ones who don't raise their voice, who don't chase after anyone, who simply withdraw, and suddenly everything around them shifts. People become curious. They start to feel uneasy. Some even panic. It's as if their silence echoes louder than any scream could. And here's the unsettling part. That same power exists within you. Most people live their lives in constant reaction, responding, explaining, defending, chasing validation. But what if you stopped doing all that? What if instead of jumping to answer every call, every message, every emotional pull, you chose silence? You chose not to react. You chose stillness. What would happen? Everything would change. Because silence, real silence, especially when it's conscious, carries power. Not because it's passive, but because it disrupts the patterns people depend on. When you're always reacting, always giving, always available, you're predictable. And predictable people are easy to manipulate. But the moment you step back, the moment you become less accessible, more selective, that's when the balance of power shifts. Carl Jung once said that what irritates us in others can guide us to a deeper understanding of ourselves. But think about it in reverse. When you become silent, who gets irritated? Who suddenly needs your attention? Who pokes at you just to see if you'll break that silence? That reveals more about their dependency on your reactions than it does about you. You've been taught to be available, to say yes when you mean no, to answer immediately, to give even when you're exhausted. You've been taught that being a good person means being always on. But it's a lie, and worse, it's a trap. Because being excessively available doesn't make you valuable, it makes you invisible. It tells the world you don't have boundaries. And people may not say it aloud, but they notice, and they use it. The more they can count on you to respond, the more they will push, pull, and drain. Not always with malice, but always with expectation. And it's those expectations that become your cage. Think about it. How often have you said yes out of guilt? How often have you been afraid to disappoint someone, to seem rude or distant? How often have you explained yourself for simply needing rest? Each time you do that, you hand over a piece of your energy. And energy is not infinite. It's your most precious resource. Jung described the human psyche as a system of psychic energy, a dynamic force that fuels your thoughts, emotions, and actions. And every time you react to something unnecessary, every time you pour yourself into people who don't pour back, you're bleeding energy, quietly, slowly, until you wake up one day and feel empty, bitter, tired, and you don't know why. Now you do. It's because you haven't learned to say no. You haven't learned the strength in silence. You haven't learned that not everyone deserves access to you. But here's where it gets powerful. When you finally do start pulling back, not out of spite, not out of fear, but from awareness, you'll see everything around you change. People will be confused. Some will be angry. Others will feel betrayed. Not because you did something wrong, but because you stopped being convenient. They'll say you've changed, that you're distant, cold. But the truth is, you're just finally being real. You're no longer wearing the persona Jung talked about, that mask we all put on to be accepted, to be liked. You've taken it off. And what remains is someone who values their energy, their peace, their boundaries. This process, Jung called it individuation, the path of becoming who you truly are, not who people expect you to be. Not the version of you that fits into everyone else's narrative, but your real self, whole, sovereign, grounded. But individuation comes at a cost. You'll lose people, the ones who only wanted the old you, the one who never said no, who never stopped giving, who never withdrew. You'll lose conversations that once filled you time but drained your soul. You'll lose spaces where you once felt needed but never felt seen. But what you gain is priceless. You gain clarity. You begin to see who was really there for you, and who was there for what you gave them. You begin to understand how often you've confused attention with love, how many times you settled for connection built on obligation rather than authenticity. And that understanding is your liberation. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You begin to conserve your energy. You stop chasing closure. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You realize that some arguments don't deserve a response. Some invitations don't deserve a reply. Some people don't deserve your availability. This doesn't mean becoming hard or bitter. It means becoming selective. It means understanding that your energy is currency, and not everyone can afford it. You've probably been told that silence means weakness, that saying nothing is avoidance. But silence, real silence, is not the absence of strength. It's the presence of it. It says, I do not need to prove myself. I do not need to convince you. I do not need to be anything for anyone right now. I am enough, quiet, still, and whole. And when you start living that way, the world around you has no choice but to adjust. Because now you are no longer someone who can be triggered into performance. You are not a puppet on emotional strings. You are the one holding the strings. You are the one deciding what gets your time, your mind, your heart. It's not about revenge. It's not about cutting people off out of anger. It's about cutting the energy leaks. It's about choosing yourself without guilt. And yes, at first, it will feel lonely. But that loneliness isn't emptiness. It's space. Space to rebuild, to reconnect with yourself. Space to finally hear your own voice, and in that space, the right people will show up. The ones who don't need to manipulate you to feel powerful. The ones who honor your boundaries, your silence, your soul. And maybe, for the first time, you'll realize that you were never really alone. You were just surrounded by the wrong kind of noise. So let me ask you, how much of your exhaustion is caused by your own unwillingness to be unavailable? How much of your anxiety comes from trying to be everything for everyone? Maybe it's time to stop, to breathe, to become invisible to what drains you and visible to what nourishes you. Because when you stop being available for everything, you start becoming available for the things that truly matter. Your peace, your growth, your truth. And no one, not guilt, not fear, not noise, can take that from you. You don't owe the world constant access. You owe yourself freedom. And freedom begins the moment you stop explaining your silence and start living it. Now tell me in the comments, do you have the courage to be misunderstood, to be rejected, even disliked, just to finally live as your truest self? Are you bold enough to pay the price of full authenticity? If something in this message stirred something in you, if it cracked open even a small door inside, type in the comments, I choose my peace. Let's see who's truly ready to stop performing and start living. And whatever you do, don't skip the next video. It's not just the next step. It might be the most important one yet. I'll meet you there.